Hey, look who's coming down the chimney this Christmas. I don't think so. Did you catch that subtle Kevin McAllister Home Alone reference there? Never mind. I'm Mark, your host, and today we're going to take a look at the Americanized images of Santa Claus. You ever play that game where one person tells a story to another and they tell it to another, and by the end the details are completely different? Well, that's pretty much how the legend of Santa Claus plays out. Okay, one thing's for sure, that St. Nicholas was a real person. He was a Greek bishop in the 4th century, and he had a really good reputation for being generous. Now, could he do the miraculous? I don't know, but apparently more churches are named for St. Nicholas than any of the apostles. He became really popular. He's known as the patron saint of sailors and travelers, even brewers. The problem was that Protestants weren't too keen on celebrating a human saint every December, but everybody was on the same page in terms of wanting to celebrate Christmas or winter solstice, so this is where the legend of Saint Nick begins to evolve a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and skip ahead a couple thousand years because I'm going to give you a link in the description below to the Christmas Past podcast by my friend Brian Earl. He's got a great 3-part series on the evolution of Santa Claus. In terms of the Americanized Santa Claus, that really all gets kicked off in the early 1800s when both Washington Irving and Clement Clarke Moore both write stories or poems about him. Those became so popular that contemporary artists at the time began to give what their depiction of Santa Claus looked like from the writings. The first illustrator to draw Santa Claus from these works was probably Thomas Nast for Harper's Weekly in the 1800s. Now, Nast got his start as a Civil War battlefield illustrator, and he was also a political cartoonist. In fact, he came up with the idea of having a donkey and an elephant for our modern political parties. Anyway, his depiction of Santa was like this little elf smoking a pipe, kind of Christmas creepy in my opinion. The next artist I ran across was Frankankavel, and he illustrated Santa for several covers of Puck magazine in the early 1900s. Now, an equivalent of Puck magazine today would be something like Mad Magazine, a satirical magazine. And unfortunately, Frank's depiction of Santa was quite a womanizer. Fortunately, in the 1920s, 2 artists for the Saturday Evening Post, J.C. Leyendecker and Norman Rockwell, portrayed Santa as a whole lot more heartwarming. Now, the man who usually gets the most credit for popularizing images of Santa is Haddon Sundblom, and he was hired by the Coca-Cola Company to do pictures of Santa in advertisements for over 30 years. But my personal favorite illustrator or painter of Santa Claus images is a man named George Hinke. Now, he was hired in the 1940s by Ideals magazine to do these fantastic scenes with Santa Claus. Now, Hinke was originally from Germany, and he drew inspiration from that for his scenes. In fact, you can see a castle that pulls architectural detail from Ludwig's castle. There's a Black Forest clock in many of the scenes, and he has a lot of elves that look like the gnomes that were popular in German gardens. So all of this inspired me, and I felt creative, and I wanted to produce a painting of Santa myself. Now, as a creative director, I've produced digital portraits many times from photos. So here's an image of Santa that I got from a stock media site. And then I wanted a background that looked like the North Pole, which I found on unsplash.com. So I had to add to the background a little bit of the North Pole, and I wanted to drop in a more dramatic sky. And after that, I placed Santa in the image, and then I took that composite into one of my painting programs. From that, I generated several layers that I blended back together in Photoshop, and the result, ho ho ho, is a new digital painting of Santa Claus. That'll just about do it for this episode. I wish you and your family a merry and meaningful and a healthy Christmas as well. I'm Mark for your Creative Brief, and we'll see you again in 2021.